Hey guys, today I wanted to talk about the Sun Belt of the United States and just why it is so important and the demographic changes it has seen over the last couple of years. So basically, the Sun Belt I think is a very important region for presidential elections. The three most populated states, the states of California, Texas, and Florida, are all located in the Sun Belt. These three states make up a combined over 100 electoral votes, and I think that these states are definitely three of the most important states and can definitely tip the election in either candidate's favor. So basically, I plotted out the Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton margins from 2016. Basically, Joe Biden, I will be making prediction for him in 2020. But these colors here, these states of New Mexico, Nevada, and California, they went to Hillary Clinton in 2016, and all the red states went to Trump in 2016. So Hillary Clinton carried the state of California with a solid margin, Nevada by 2.5%, with basically a lean margin, Nevada with 8%, a likely margin. And then Trump carried Texas by 9%, Arizona by around 2%, and then most of the South pretty safe for the president. South Carolina, Georgia a little bit closer, and then Florida was very close, 1.2% for the president in 2016. And so basically here, I just want to talk about how these states have shifted to the right or to the left in the last couple of decades. So basically since 2000, I want to talk about how these states have shifted. So first, with the state of California, California definitely has been shifting to the left. In 2000, Al Gore won this state with 53% of the vote, and then in 2016, Hillary Clinton won this state with 61% of the vote, and she was not too popular of a Democratic candidate. So this is surprising. She basically had one of the best performances in the state of California for any Democrat, even though she was not too popular. But this really just shows the demographic changes and how California is shifting more and more to the left. So basically, the darker the blue, the more I think it shifted. So that is the larger the shift, the darker it is. And then this is a little bit lighter. I think California is not the darkest blue, but I think it is definitely a little bit lighter, but still a very strong shift for the Democrats in the state of California, which has basically become their stronghold on the electoral map at this point. And then next, the state of Nevada. Nevada, I think, actually has been moving to the right. Nevada has gone to the Democrats in 2008, 2012, and 2016, but looking at the data, the margins from the state of Nevada has been decreasing from 55% for Obama in 2008 to 52% for him in 2012, and then now 47% of the vote for Hillary Clinton in 2016. She wasn't even expected to win this state. She carried this state by 2.4%, but she was actually behind in the polling on election night. So this was a state that Trump was expected to win, but he did not. But Nevada is still moving more and more to the right, very slowly, but I think it's definitely moving to the right. I think that in 2020, Joe Biden could definitely change this. If he were to win this state by quite a large margin, by around 6-7%, I think that maybe it could shift back. But at this point, Nevada is a state that's moving a little bit more and more to the right, but albeit by a very small margin. I think that it's more of a lean for the shifting to the right. And then next, the state of Arizona, 11 electoral votes. This is a pretty important state in 2020, as if Wisconsin does not go to Joe Biden, he can win the state of Arizona. It's basically one of these states that I think that can replace any of these three Rust Belt states, in my opinion. And I think that Arizona definitely has a chance of being the tipping point state in 2020. So this state went to Donald Trump in 2016 by 2.4%, and this state has gone to the Republican Party since the year 2000. The last Democrat to win this was Bill Clinton in 1996. And in the state of Arizona, Trump won it by 3% in 2016, but Biden currently leads in the polls by 4%. So this is basically a 7% swing for Joe Biden in the state of Arizona. And Arizona, of course, being the largest growing state in the entire country, with the city of Phoenix being the fastest growing metropolitan area. And the state of Arizona has basically really been receiving a lot more Latino and Hispanic voters, which almost directly translates to Democratic voters, which is why I think Arizona is definitely moving more and more to the left. I think at a similar rate to California, but Arizona definitely moving to the left. And then the state of New Mexico. New Mexico, Hillary Clinton had a pretty poor showing here, only winning the state by 8.3%. Biden leads in it by 10%. I think really not too much has changed. It has gone to the Republicans in the past, but the Democrats have been pretty solid here for quite a while now. And I think that this state, it's been moving a little bit more to the right, but to the left, but really not too much of a drastic change. And talking about drastic change, Texas definitely, I think, is one of the most left-leaning states at this point. Not left-leaning, but moving more and more to the right, left-shifting states. I think that Texas, 38 electoral votes, this was the Republican Party's California, even though it was smaller. But Texas basically made up a large chunk of the electoral votes that any Republican could get in the Electoral College. But now Texas seems to be moving a lot more to the left. It has been moving to the left for quite a while. And I think that definitely if Donald Trump was not the candidate, if a more popular candidate were running for the Republican Party, I think definitely Texas would be much stronger for the Republicans. But still, I think he would whoever the Republican candidate was would underperform any Republican in the past couple of years. Texas, of course, has not gone to a Democrat since 1976 with Jimmy Carter after Ronald Reagan won it in 1980. Every Republican has been able to carry it by very strong margins. Mitt Romney carried it with a 16% margin in 2012, Trump with a 9% margin in 2016, but now Biden is actually leading the polls in Texas, which is very surprising considering how right-leaning the state has tended to be, but Biden is definitely doing very well in the state, so I think that this is definitely one of the most left-leaning states in the entire country, similar to both California and Arizona. And then the deep south here, these states Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. I'm honestly just going to talk about these states together. I think these states, they are all very strong for the Republicans. They are both all very solid states for Trump in 2016, plus 20 points for him in Louisiana, and then plus 18 points for him in Mississippi. Alabama, he won over 60% of the vote here. So I think definitely very strong states for the Republicans, and I think that they are definitely shifting towards the right, albeit by not too strong of a shift, but I think definitely they are shifting to the right. These states have been Republican states for around 3 to 4 decades. Before that, they were very strong Democratic strongholds for the Democratic Party, but after LBJ signed the Civil Rights Act in 1964, I believe, these states, they all decided to sway away from the Democrats and vote for the Republicans as they were not happy with the civil rights reform that was passed in the 60s. And then we have 3 more states basically in the southeast. These states, I think, are moving more to the left than these other 3 states. I think that in the state of Florida, it is pretty even right now, honestly, but Florida has been very close in every election. But I think that Florida, because Biden leads in it by 6 points in 2020, although Trump won it by 1.2% in 2016, I will put it in the shifting left column just because in the last 4 years it has moved to the left significantly. Before that, honestly, I would say it was even, as Barack Obama won it, George W. Bush won it, and Trump won it, so all by very small margins. So these states were all very close states. Of course, Bush won it by 537 votes in the year 2000 against Al Gore, which won him the election. It was a very contentious election, especially in the state of Florida. Florida's always been very close, but in 2020, it seems as if Biden is going to have a pretty comfortable victory in this state, outperforming Barack Obama's 2008 and 2012 margins. So I think that Florida is shifting a little bit to the left from 2016. And then the state of Georgia. Georgia, I think, is also moving to the left. Honestly, not too much, but I think that it is definitely moving towards the left. Trump did win it pretty comfortably by around 5-6%. Although he did underperform, that was still not too bad of a showing for President Trump. In the past, Republicans have done better, but Georgia is moving to the left, similarly to Florida. Of course, Stacey Abrams almost won the governorship in the state of Georgia in 2018, but she still lost it. And I think that Georgia is one of those states where the Democrats are improving, but honestly, I think they have hit their ceiling in terms of support from the state of Georgia. I think that their ceiling is basically around 48%, with the Republicans winning around 50% of the vote in the state at this point. So I think Democrats definitely are improving this state, but I think that they've capped off their lead in the state. I mean, they've capped off their support in the state of Georgia at around 47-48%. And then lastly, the state of South Carolina. This state went to Trump in 2016 by 14%, very close to being a solid state for the Republicans. But now Trump only leads by 6% in this state, and just because of that, I'm going to say it's shifting to the left. The state has been moving just a little bit towards the left in recent elections. However, it's really 2020 that will decide whether this is really happening, because the state of South Carolina, a pretty strong Republican state, was of course strong for the Democrats before the Civil Rights Bill was passed, like states like Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. But now South Carolina is still pretty strong for the Republicans, but Joe Biden is definitely overperforming in this state. He's definitely doing much better than Hillary Clinton did in 2016 in the state of South Carolina, so I think it is shifting to the left. So looking at the basic demographics here of the Sun Belt is definitely moving more and more to the right, to the left as a whole. Nevada nearly moving to the right, and then the 3 southern states, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, are moving to the right. However, most of the large electoral vote states are all moving to the left. California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina, they are all moving to the left. So a very good sign for the Democrats. But in 2020, I don't think that these states are going to go to either party, especially the state of Texas. It's still going to go to the Republicans with a tilt margin, in my opinion. Biden might be leading here by a very small margin, but this state is so red. It has been so red. I don't see it flipping 2020, 2024, 2028 definitely, but 2020 I don't see it flipping. I think Trump is going to hold on to the state by a very narrow margin, even if he loses the election. And then Louisiana, definitely a safe state. Mississippi, Alabama, definitely going to be safe for Donald Trump. I think that if he underperforms in Mississippi, Louisiana could be a little bit less solid for him, but I think at this point they are going to be solid Republican states for President Trump. And then the state of Nevada, I think Nevada is going to be a lean state for Joe Biden. I think this state, he's ahead in the polls by around 5 to 6%. I don't see him crossing the 7% mark, but I think that he is definitely going to do better than Hillary Clinton in the state of Nevada in 2020. And then California, safe state. It's not going to be, a lean or likely margin. It's almost definitely going to be safe. He's going to win this state by over 20%. So California, definitely a safe state for Joe Biden. And then the state of Arizona, I think it's going to be a chilled margin for Joe Biden in this state. Honestly, the state of Arizona is very close right now. Biden leads by around 3%. I think he's going to underperform, but I still think he's going to carry this state in 2020 just because Trump is not too popular here. And Mark Kelly is expected to unseat Martha McSally, the incumbent senator from the state of Arizona, taking over after the death of John McCain. Democrats are definitely making progress in Arizona, and I think it's going to flip in 2020. New Mexico, I think it's going to be a likely state around 13-14%. That is basically Biden's polling average. I think it's going to be around that, and that was Hillary Clinton's margin. That was not Hillary Clinton's margin. Hillary Clinton had around an 8% lead, but this is Biden's polling average, and I think he's going to match that on election night. I think Joe Biden's going to do very well in New Mexico, just like he's going to in Colorado. I think these two states are going to vote very similarly to each other on election night in 2020. And then these last three states in the Southeast, I think the state of Florida is going to be a tilt state for Joe Biden. It has been polling in the lean margin for Joe Biden, but Florida is always very close. I really do not want to overestimate Joe Biden's potential in the state, but I think he's definitely going to carry this state by around 2% on election night. And then the state of Georgia, it's moving to the right along with South Carolina, but I really don't see it going to Joe Biden. Honestly, I think it's going to be a tilt margin for Donald Trump in the state as well, just because the state was actually polling in favor of Joe Biden for quite a while, a couple of months ago. But now Trump has taken the lead, but he only leads by around 2-3%. It's really not too strong for Trump in this state. Let's say he won by over 6% in 2016. So I think Georgia is going to move a lot to the left in 2020, but definitely still a Republican state. In South Carolina, I think it's going to be a lean margin around 6% for Trump, basically matching his polling average. I think South Carolina is going to move drastically to the left from 2016, but I think Trump is still definitely going to carry the state. So basically, as a recap, I think Arizona and Florida are going to flip with very small margins, while states like Texas, Georgia, and South Carolina are going to get closer, and Biden is going to definitely outperform Hillary Clinton in these states. And so basically this is my Sunbelt analysis. I will be going over this in the future, just looking at some of the changes that are going to occur, but this is basically my Sunbelt analysis. I think that as a whole, the Sunbelt is moving to the left, but I really do not see the Democrats sweeping most of it in 2020, but definitely in the future. I think definitely states like Texas, Georgia, and South Carolina have potential of being strong blue states. And so if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel as well as liking this video. We are very close to 400 subscribers, so if you could subscribe and help me reach that goal, I would really appreciate that. And comment your thoughts below as well as any video suggestions you'd like to see in the future, and I will see you in the next video.